Dear Grace. Back to the editing live. This is live number 3, which really isn't much different than the other ones, except for I'm not reading the news anymore. And seems to be a short delay after I start it until it goes live on the phone. Just going to check to make sure it's working. I think it is. Check to make sure it's working. There we go. So now I'll leave the phone go. Part 6, 1 month after the Joe/Ricky podcast. Ricky buys an abandoned resort island, changes his name to Gary, and disappears from public life. Gary's new island contains an empty 1,000-room hotel. He renovates the hotel, installing a network of workstations and servers, but no connection to the network. The island is independent of any government regulations. Gary can live and act as he pleases. It's his land, his business. Frequent overnight showers, a paradise. Frequent overnight showers, fresh, a paradise. Gary brings hundreds of rescued dogs and cats to the they thrive. They control the rodent population and bring Gary joy. Gary spends his free time teaching the cats and dogs to eat spiders. It's fine. Gary does not care for spiders. Gary recruits hundreds of autistic computer programmers, all over 18, from around the world. He brings them all to the island at his expense. The programmers must follow the following rules. Oops. Has it been locking up here? Sorry, Grace. I'm doing my best. Piece of shit computer. The programmers must agree to the following rules. Number 1, no AIDS, obviously. No other STDs are allowed on the island as well, including monkeypox. Number 2, all males must have a vasectomy, except Gary. It can be reversed at the end of their stay if they choose. These policies allow free love on the island without material consequences. And although Elon Musk is trying to get everyone on the planet pregnant, Gary disagrees and frankly doesn't like the idea of babies on his island, Gary's island. Finally, no data read/watched/heard on the island will ever be repeated off the island. Ever be repeated off the island. The autistic programmers and computer specialists accept the terms. Gary hires the hiccups, Grace. Thousands of autistic programmers and computer specialists. Gary hires nearly all. He doesn't care about their past, their education, or anything about them except that they're not currently wanted by any government for breaking the law. And the renovated hotel provides Gary's team with basic but comfortable accommodations. The amenities are plentiful, and of course all free. Every person gets their own room. Married couples are offered 2 connected rooms if they please, or share one. Without labor laws, Gary sets the rules. He instructs the programmers to work as much as they please. They'll be paid by the hour. They will be paid well, but no overtime. They decide how many hours a day they work and when they work. After the contracts are signed, Gary gathers the programmers into note. On arrival day, after the contracts are signed, Gary gathers the programmers into the hotel's ballroom. Gary instructs his team to build the following system. His newly created team of autistics to build the following system. Create an online database for PTSD victims, survivors, allows them to submit their stories anonymously. Look, create an online database for anyone suffering from any mental condition, known or unknown. Including addiction. Create an online database for anyone suffering from any mental condition, known or unknown, including addiction. To submit the history of their condition or their choice. Ensure the complete anonymity of anyone submitting their story. Anonymity. Grace, if I can ever say that word, it would be a miracle. At least I can type it. Ensure the anonymity of anyone submitting their story. Allow text, audio, or video submissions, but again, ensure the anonymity. It must be guaranteed, provable. The system must be always anonymous in every aspect, for every user, programmer, or administrator, for all time. For every user, programmer, or administrator, for all time. Guaranteed. Another word I can't spell. So did faster. Once the security and anonymity is reached, Gary releases the site to the world and asks anyone suffering from anything to share their stories, any part of their story, as often as they please and however they please. The program has built an amazing system. It works. It's secure. It's perfect. Was there any doubt, Grace? I doubted them. The data begins to flow into the system. Gary's system, the team's system, the world's system. Oh, a system that will bring down DSM-5. Since the island has no internet, the data is gathered on the mainland. I don't know why that's fucking that. But on the mainland and then moved, not copied to the island. Any data lost in transit is lost. There's no backup in transit, only the island. Any data lost in transit is lost. There's no backup in transit, only on the island. Gary accepts this risk. They need tons of data, but not all data. Anyone suffering has nothing to lose. They submit their stories by the millions. Then the real task begins, data analysis. Gary believes stories are patterns and are predictable. He instructs. Break, Grease. We had applause breaks before, Grace. But now, working on my laptop in a room is too quiet. However, does it really matter? Does it make a difference? Does it don't care? Let's find out. He instructs the programmers to read the stories, listen to them. He suggests they look for paths in the stories, write code to find the similarities. Watch him. He wants them to watch in groups, with a buddy, or alone. It's up to the programmers to decide. Any option is a viable option. The only task now is finding the beginning, middle, and end to every story. On the island, every program has access to the data. There are no restrictions, and every program has access to the results, or code, or anything except personal files. A teammate. Everything is shared, but nothing can leave the island. There's no outgoing data connections to the rest of the world. The programmer's personal stories remain secure, never accessible. But when the individual leaves the island, the files are destroyed. No data, electronic or analog, will ever leave the island. Only thoughts. All participants accept these conditions. Sure, that's needed grace, but we'll leave it there. There's no currency on the island. There's nothing to buy. Gary provides. With everything the programmers need being provided by the island. There is little to distract them from their jobs, except each other. Sex is rampant. Rampant, Grace. Rampant. Rampant. You care what any of them do behind closed doors. Their choice. Their body. Their choice. He only cares about the software, the code, the algorithm. Everything is proceeding without delay. Everything is proceeding without delay. The code, the statistics are developing is astonishing. Astonishing, Grace. A few programmers give up and leave the island, but not many. Some new ones arrive. They work passionately to solve the issues, to finish the program, not for Gary, for the world. Together, we're all live, Grace says there's no pause. But that's okay. It requires a few months, but over time and with Gary's nearly unlimited resources, they succeed. It's not one pattern, it's many. Thousands. Gary knows the job isn't complete and asks the sexually exhausted autistic programmers to persevere, to build the anonymous AI. Build the anonymous AI. AAI that will automatically send suggestions to anyone who submitted their story, possibly hearing them of whichever by condition they were labeled with by a doctor, their friends and family themselves. Is there a dash or no dash? Make up your fucking mind. Maybe like that. The team succeeds and AAI starts interacting anonymously. Offers no guarantees, only suggestions. Of all so-called mental conditions. A few conditions are harder to solve. The programming restarts. The sex-crazed autistic programmers fuck their way to a solution for every condition and label in the book, including any new conditions for the set 6. Psychology and psychiatry industry is dead, gone into nothingness, a failed experiment. The end of the DSM-5. Gary's team brings medicine back to science, not opinions by long-dead psychiatrists and psychologists whose theories are completely irrelevant in the modern era. They saved the world from a lifetime of unneeded and ineffective medicines by simply following the data, understanding the data, using the data, their advantage to solve the issue on label person. Gary sends all the months complete. Gary sends all the autistic programmers home. Gary destroys all service containing all the stories. They are not needed now. We can live without the risk. Without history, we can live without. I should have taken that out, Grace. We don't need to do that. If the data is secure, it doesn't matter. This would be secure like Tabitha. Secure. I could probably bring Tabitha into this right here, Grace, but I'll leave it. It's easier. The horny autistic programmers, HAPs, become famous for saving the mental health of the world. They're admired and showered with riches beyond their dreams. None of the HAPs speak of their time on the island. None. Gary changes his name back to Ricky and returns to his previous life of comedy without the world knowing it was his idea to use autistic people for the betterment of mankind. Ricky does, however, coin the term autistic, which of course is immediately loved by the world. Ricky goes back on tour, but doubles the price of his tickets, since most of his fortune was spent on the island. The experiment. The fans are happy, but Ricky doesn't care. The fans are not happy as Ricky invents a cup that holds ice but doesn't make a tinkling noise. He gives them out free at his events. It explodes. Ricky starts selling the cups under the name Fuck Ice Cups. Instant success. Restaurants, pubs, and comedy stores around the world adopt this trend. No tinkling. Ricky's ears are in heaven whenever he performs or drinks in public. Ricky becomes rich again, loved again, forgiven for the ice incident, and is knighted by King Charles. And the end scene. Shit, don't do that. Leave that there. All right, Grace. 6. Part 7. Okay. Now we go back to the may I script and continue stealing from there. Technically it's rewriting, not stealing, but sometimes it feels like stealing. I have to do another search and replace Grace. So it's going to be a second or two, if you don't mind. I'm going to switch so you can see it, but it's really not that easy. Alright, Grace. I'm not sure this is going to work, but I'll give it a shot. It's the worst that can happen. Part 7. I'm going to steal Leon's story again. Saskatchewan. Grace Truon. Saskatchewan. Well, I guess when I replace cat, It replaced every instance of KAT. So we're going to have some typos, Grace. Through his bedroom window, a 15-year-old David watches his cousin Doug skating on the outdoor rink. It's Saturday, 6 a.m. David could sleep until 6:30, his Uncle Joe allowing an extra 30 minutes of sleep on the weekends. But David's internal clock is primed for the 6 a.m. wake-up call. Saskatchewan. Saskatchewan. Grace. I'm not sure. If the live stream is working, Grace. At least it's not working on my phone. Take a risk. I'm just going to assume it's working. My phone's a piece of shit. Or the connection, which I know is a piece of shit. It's guaranteed. However, give me a second, Grace. If you're being impatient, if you are, time to learn some patience. Life doesn't always work the way you want it to, Grace. You just need to understand that. Is it too much to ask? Alrighty. Well, shit, Grace. One thing I don't know, Grace, is if I lose internet, if it stops it, or just fucks it up a bit. Right now, it seems like it stops it, which is going to be a big pain in the ass, Grace. Because the only problem with live, Grace, is the connection, obviously. And it doesn't help when my connection sucks. So, chalk this up to doing my best and not giving a shit. How about this? Let's try. In theory, Grace, in a second or two, there we go. Okay, so get that back. In theory, Grace. Turn that down and keep editing. Gonna edit fast, like the internet's gonna die again. We're 36 minutes in. She will get through most of this, I think, Grace. I apologize for still not being able to talk. Fortunately, that's what happens when you don't use your mouth for a few years, other than to eat, drink, and smoke. All right. David writes a letter home to his mother, a tradition he started upon arrival to Saskatchewan in farm life. I stole Elon Musk's story. Well, it's not really his story, but concept. And I don't care. He can sue me. All right. 7. Winter 1985, rural Saskatchewan. Dear Mother, I've lived in Saskatchewan exactly 6 months today. I think I'm finally getting used to the lifestyle, and more importantly, how to handle Uncle Joe. Last week, he asked me to turn my Commodore 64 computer off at night because it's a waste of electricity. I considered explaining in detail. Let's do this, Grace. The problem is I just can't fucking read. Just can't fucking see. Bump it up to old man levels. I considered explaining in detail about how the lights he uses to illuminate Doug's outdoor rink consume considerably more energy than my computer, but I restrained myself. Like you told me before I left home, some arguments are not worth it. Besides, I found a workaround by installing a kill switch on the back of the computer for the lights and speaker. When I'm coding, I turn the lights on, and if Joe comes into my room, everything looks and sounds normal. Then, when I need to compile my code or run calculations that take up most of the night, I kill the lights and let the computer run in silent mode. Uncle Joe hasn't noticed best of both worlds, in my opinion. School is fine. Most of the teachers are similar to the homeland and only teach the bare minimum and are annoyed by thought-provoking questions during their lessons. The only exception is my physics and calculus teacher, Black Mike. No one calls him that to his face, but everyone knows the nickname and the stories behind it. I should mention he's white, not black. Sorry, Grace. People talking in the background. I should mention he's white, not black, but he has a large black beard and hair like Einstein, but dark and greasy. Black Mike is the largest person in the school, and he uses it to his advantage every day to terrorize any student he gets running in the hall or talking too loud or too long at their lockers. Let's get some commas going, Grace. His normal move is to grab the male students by the shirt and push them against the locker, and occasionally slides them up the locker, like the Graviton ride I told you about when we went to the Calgary Stampede. Please read that letter if you don't remember, Mother. For sure, Elon's a big mother person. Anyway, Black Mike doesn't eat with the other teachers. He runs the detention room instead, a completely silent experience. On Friday, I was sent to detention. The biology teacher disagreed with my alternate view of evolution, one based on physics instead of blood. She said I wasted the entire class's time. I disagreed, but nonetheless, I ended detention, and for the first time, detention was empty of other students, and I was alone with Black Mike. And instead of silence, we talked physics. I won't bore you with the details, but he did tell me he takes the bus to Calgary once a month to read the current journals in various sciences. He offered to bring me back some of the old issues. I think he has a secret. The rumor around school, and also by Uncle Joe, is that he goes to Calgary to gamble and party. To gamble and party. But if he wanted to stop that rumor, he could. Just tell others what he told them. No? Maybe he doesn't care. Maybe he's too smart to care. I definitely think he should be more than a teacher of physics, but he seems content. On another note, my ice hockey skills are no better. My skating is racing. I'm going to be careful next time I do that cat thing. Make sure he's a cat, okay? My skating still sucks. Skating still sucks. Why do I even use any word that starts with an S or C? Grace. Or did I change that to something else? Or too bad. But Doug and his friends let me play goalie, which is fine. I enjoy it. Although I rarely stop a puck. However, I like to believe I'm increasing their confidence by allowing the constant goals. I did help Uncle Joe modify his homemade Zamboni, guard tractor plow, some old weed sprayer heads, 55-gallon water drums, and a ton of welded pipe, all pulled on a homemade trailer. It broke the umpteenth frickin' time the other day, like almost everything does on the farm. I took the opportunity to point out a change to the propane burners that would decrease the time to heat the water. You know, Joe, at first he said, no. You know, Joe, at first he said no before I could finish explaining the thermodynamics. But once I drew out the design in simple terms on a piece of paper, he decided to give it a try. He even let me do the welding, which I enjoyed. Anyway, the modification worked, and I think he was impressed, although how do you tell with him or any farmer? That's all I have to update you on. I'm hoping to talk to Black Mike again soon, but I'd rather not do it in detention. As usual, I'm fine. Don't need to worry about me. I'm glad you suggested I come to Canada. Love, your son, David. David prints out the letter on his dot matrix printer and signs it. Tom normally drives the family dog Lucy crazy, but she's outside barking at Doug as he skates. Back and forth in the rink, allowing David to print uninterrupted. He'll give his Aunt Joan the envelope to post in town. David wonders if she ever accidentally reads the outgoing mail. I definitely said skating a lot in this. Skating. Under the guise of coding alone, David remains while the rest of the family goes into town to watch Doug play hockey. Doug is the local Gretzky, skates circles around the others, and is only stopped when body checked. The goal of every other player, body checked. The goal of every player on the opposing team. Doug's success is based on the nearly perfect full-size rink Uncle Joe keeps maintained for him. Doug practices whenever he wants, compared to the other players who skate only a few times a week. "10,000 words, Grace." Did you see that? Once the coast is clear, David heads to the family room to watch TV, or specifically listen to it. A couple of months ago, the family purchased a satellite TV dish, and since then, David has been fascinated with the device. His cousin showed him how to view the scrambled pornography, but his interest was in science, not sex, and instead he found a scrambled Houston channel that interviewed NASA scientists and astronauts. The image was scrambled, but David didn't care. He only needed to hear their words, their voices, not see their faces. If no interviews of interest were playing, David would spend hours scanning the skies with the satellite, hoping to pick up an unknown channel, or better yet, a signal from beyond Earth, sent by another planet, another sentient being, a sign. David compares the dishes back at its original location before Uncle Joe and the family return. Something Joe would notice and then question David. David likes to ask questions, not answer them, particularly Joe's. One year later, David sits in the principal's office, receiving a lecture about why he shouldn't quit school, especially halfway through the final year. David doesn't care. This is the final lecture in David's mind, maybe in his entire life. The principal tells David, "You'll never be anything without a high school diploma." David sits silent, not giving the authority figure a single expression of concern or emotion of any sort. He wants to tell the principal to fuck off, but he doesn't. He waits for the droning to stop and wants excuse. He cleans out a hat and jacket from his locker and leaves the school forever. He heading to his new job as a grocery clerk for the Hudson's Bay Company in Nunavut, Northwest Territories. The only thought in his mind about the principal is, "Just watch me, motherfucker, just watch me." Present day. Present day. Grace begins coding and names her software micro May I, and nicknames it May I. Them to catch the man's keystroke. In days she can capture his every stroke, his every word. But still can't see his screen. He's using multiple apps and the mouse. Grace needs to separate the raw data into actual data, like emails, chat messages, and the full content of anything he writes. May I does the hard work, looking at the actual data, while Grace observes and guides her AI when it makes mistakes. Thinking Grace should change May I to Tabitha. No, we can do it later. David and Grace want a name. David and Grace want a name. It's May I, so that's Liam and Grace. Grace wants a name. It's May I's top priority, and a week later she concludes the man's name is either David or David or David, Dave or David or Davey. Grace continues coding, finishes the voice interface, and asks May I, what percentage of the time does David finish emails with David compared to Dave? May I responds, 51% David, 49% Dave. Grace thanks AI, but the AI is silent, no response. Grace remembers she took out the small talk portion of the AI code, as it was annoying and anthropomorphizing Anthro, anthro, anthropomorph. Fuck. I know how to say that word, Grace, but fuck. Grace believes computers are silent slaves, not sentient. No words going to waste on this site, Grace. We're reason all this fucking thing is sold. David writes a short movie idea. Short movie. Writes a short movie idea number 67. All the dead psychologists and that's just sorry, Grace. Some formatting issues. All the dead psychologists and psychiatrists from the beginning of time are tasked in the afterlife with building an AI that can cure any mental illness with only YouTube, Netflix, Twitter, and Substack. This sounds more like Tabitha. They succeed, of course, and as a prize, the creator of the universe reanimates every dead person ever that wants to be reanimated. Their choice. Unfortunately, their achievement puts every psychologist and psychiatrist alive on the planet out of work. No need for any of them. All it takes to cure depression is an internet connection and some free time. In fact, the more free time, the faster you heal. This is the brilliance of the algorithm. And submitting your story anonymously. There's a short movie idea there, Grace, but whatever. Let's leave it in. It's easier to cut. David sits at his desk and writes his plan for the last 3 days of November and all of December. Do some shit, write some shit, lose weight, walk 5 to 10 kp, 5 to 10 kilometers per day. Are you ever going to help me with this, Grace? You can do some of the formatting, some of the writing, some of the heavy listing. I do all the listing, thanks. Some of the heavy lifting. Fuck. Probably not a good idea not to talk for years, Grace. It takes a while to get back. November and all of December, do some shit, write some shit, lose weight, walk 5 to 10 kilometers per day, go back on keto. Once your welfare disability check arrives, eat whatever until then, makes no difference. Sleep, forget life. Hearing aid appointment, don't forget, set an alarm. Can I hear the alarm if I need a hearing aid? Is the question, Grace? And it's yes, because the hearing aid was not for deafness, it was for fucking tinnitus. Alrighty. What are we at here? 50 minutes. Wow. It's funny how this works out almost perfectly to an hour every time. We'll just leave this in as is. David receives a hearing aid to help with his severe tinnitus. The device masks the perceived loud ringing with white noise at a level equal to the annoying tone and begins to give him some relief. Although he's disappointed because the audiologist said it may take years before any noticeable lasting improvement. David doesn't feel like he'll last years, but he has no choice. It's the only option available for his condition. On New Year's Eve, David's father dies. David has not talked to or seen his father for years. David doesn't communicate to any of his family except for one sister on occasion when he needs money, and his adult daughter every few months. Option 1. A week later, David reads his father's obituary. It's crap, it's bullshit. It pisses David off. David writes an accurate obituary for his father, knowing that it will never be published. Actually, I did that, but I'm not going to include it. David does nothing and accepts the poorly written account of his father's life. A god appears to David and explains his father was actually Moses in another lifetime, that David is a nobody, no link to anybody else in the past or future, an anomaly, but that God has plans for David. David tells the god to fuck off. Go fuck yourself, you stupid fucking old cunt. We're not going to get a lot of help with that attitude, David. Option 4, aliens. See, this is more like it. David's dad, a leader in the alien world, is returned to his ship orbiting Earth. After David recovered from human death, he returns to his alien existence, begins to monitor David and others through 24-hour constant surveillance, thanks to LED paint, an invention created by the aliens to infiltrate humanity. LED paint looks like normal paint and can be used on any surface. It contains microscopic self-solar charged batteries, cameras, and microphones to capture the data. The paint then sends the file over any Wi-Fi network within range. Aliens who control the qubit don't need passwords to access any network anywhere. David's room is covered in LED paint, and his existence is recorded in 11K clarity 24/7, lights on or off. At any point, David's dad can watch or listen to him, but he can't interfere, even upon imminent injury or death. Well, I wasn't going to keep that, but that's actually kind of good, and that ties into the whole aliens thing. Option number 6, dimensions. Larry, Curly, and Moe sit in front of a large console with various analog dials. Via holographic display, they simultaneously watch the top 10 comedians in the world on stage performing their act while laughing their old dimensionless asses off. How about this? Get asses off the alien spaceship. Option 7, dead people. David's dad's body is flown to the Antarctic, and is stored in an underground cavern until the cloning process the ex-Nazi scientists are developing is complete. Once the technology is undeniably perfect, the former Nazis will give the discovery to the world and ask the global forgiveness, blah, blah, blah. Ooh, here's a good one, Grace. Option XXX. David ignores his obituary and returns to his pride and joy, an app called Snappy, original name Snapper, a perfect system where the user can take a picture or a screenshot of anything, person, planet, place, etc. And the app returns a list of pornographic videos containing a similar looking person, planet, or place. David knows this genius and will revolutionize the porn industry and maybe the world, especially if he finishes the code to strip off every piece of advertising and replace it with his own advertising back to the same porn sites. Plus, as anyone trying to search for pictures of kids or animals is tagged in a report sent to their local police force anonymously. After taking his code on Pornhub for hours, David becomes extremely horny and masturbates fiercely until he falls asleep in his office chair naked, alone in the world, and covered in coconut oil. See, Grace, I made you look bad, but I'm making myself look bad too. So, all fair in love and war and writing. So, what part are we on here, Grace? Part 7. Perfect. Part 8. There we go, Grace. Another hour done. Some more old shit put into the new shit. Let's see if it all works or if it doesn't. If it doesn't, who gives a fuck, right? Thanks for listening, Grace, or watching, or doing whatever. You didn't do a lot.